We are back talking about the Los Angeles Rams, second Los Angeles team. Made it to the playoffs last year. We're kind of one of the scary NFC teams in the playoffs. I remember we were talking. I was like, man, I feel like they played the Lions in the first playoff game. I was like, might be the Lions' biggest test, and it was a good game. And Rams are kind of back. Won the Super Bowl in 21. Stafford and Kupp got hurt in 22, and then last year they had a good rookie class and I think revitalized the whole team a little bit. Sean McVay's going to stay. Stafford's going to stay at least another year. And so we are evaluating them for the 2024 fantasy season. It is August 8th. You're probably listening to this closer to August 15th to 20th. So keep that in mind if there's some news that comes out and we're not talking about it. But we'll start off with Matthew Stafford himself now is going into his fourth year already with the Rams, which is kind of crazy to think about. 36 and a half years old, so he's definitely up there. He's kind of year to year. We don't know. He could be done after this year. We never know. But for fantasy, he's going in round 11 as QB 21, which is kind of crazy. I don't think there's going to be 21 quarterbacks drafted in the first 11 rounds, but maybe if your team really values backup quarterbacks. But I think you can potentially get him even later. You see the numbers there. Obviously, 2021, he was pretty awesome. He was the QB 11. He threw 40 touchdowns. Then he got his injury year in 2022, and then last year, kind of a weird year. His regular season, real football season, was a lot better than his fantasy season. He threw for 4,000 yards and 24 touchdowns. But I remember just in the beginning, all the touchdowns were going to Kyron, essentially. Wasn't throwing touchdowns at the end of the year. But Stafford's, I'll just start off here. My philosophy of quarterbacks, if I'm not going to take one of the elite rushing quarterbacks, I'm going to wait until this range of guys. We've been talking about a lot of them already. Jared Goff, Justin Herbert, Trevor Lawrence, Matthew Stafford, Kirk Cousins. All these guys are in there for me in this range of I'll take a couple of these guys, and I think, using both them and piecing them together, they can get me through the season. So I think Stafford, if his weapons stay healthy and he stays healthy, then he could have not 2021. I don't think he's going to go for almost 5,040, but I wouldn't be surprised if he throws 43, 4,435, and that's going to be a low-end QB1. So where are you at with Stafford, Dad?
Yeah, I think he's right where he should be. His fantasy numbers are, other than like you've identified, there was a couple of years in Detroit, with Megatron and if you're going to look back, and then his first year with the Rams winning the Super Bowl, I mean, the numbers were unreal and stuff like that. And but last year he missed a couple games. He gets beat up a lot. He got beat up in Detroit, and he got hurt with the Rams 2 years ago. So I don't know. Is he 4,300 yards and 28 touchdowns or something? That's what I think. Matthew Stafford's numbers are. He'll look good. He's a good guy to watch and stuff like that, and he'll have some great games. And they got a second running back, so maybe they're going to emphasize the run a little more. But they also got two good wide receivers. So
yeah, I kind of look at that week 11 onward stretch that he had, and he put up some really awesome numbers. He was it was 7 games. He threw for about 1,900 yards, which isn't amazing. I mean, that's 270 yards a game. That's really good. And 16 touchdowns and 4 interceptions. So he was throwing basically 270 and 2, and even a little bit more. that stretch of games, and that's really, really good. That's that's 4,600 yards and 35 plus touchdowns is what he was on pace for. And that's kind of when he had, because at the beginning of the year, he had no Cooper Kupp for the first 4 games. Puka got a little beat up. Cooper Kupp got beat up again after he came back. That stretch is kind of when Puka was healthy, Cooper Kupp was getting healthy, and then Demarcus Robinson, their third receiver, was actually making plays for them too. So he had the and then of course Kyron and Tyler Higbee. He had all the weapons there healthy. And that's what I think he's kind of capable of. So yeah, he's definitely in that range of guys where and because there's a handful of them, again, Goff, Herbert, Lawrence, Cousins, Stafford, maybe even Rodgers, if you want to throw, there's like 5-6 guys there where it's like, okay, I'll start waiting. And when they start to go off the board, then I'll grab 1 or 2. So he's not going to give you anything rushing. That's just, that's never going to happen. But, he has that capability of kind of winning with his arm. So
I think the team kind of caught fire the last, they had a under 500 record there for a while. And then they kind of lit it up there at the end and pushed into the playoffs. So some of those numbers that you're talking about, kind of corresponded with the team doing pretty well too.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. Yeah. They won 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of the last 8 from week 11 on. So that put him in the playoffs for sure. Kyron Williams came out of nowhere. No one drafted him. There was 2 waiver wire ads of the year, and they're both on the Rams with Puka and Kyron after week 1. Kyron Williams was amazing last year. He was almost 20 points per game. This is all half PPR, by the way. 20 points per game, which was second only to Christian McCaffrey. That's amazing stuff. I think it's easy to forget, he missed 4 games, because he did so well even without those games. He was 19.9 points per game. McCaffrey was 22.4. But just over the last few seasons, there's only a couple guys that get to like that 19, 20 point threshold in points per game. And Kyron was one of them. Now he's going in round 2 as the RB7, 15th overall. And he's kind of, to me, he's in that second round range he's kind of the last guy in the second round to me. And then after that, it gets a little like, all right, there's questions about all these guys. I think he would be higher if they didn't draft Blake Corum. But I'm not worried about Blake Corum year 1. History shows, and I went back and looked at all these, from 2010 up until now, of when a team drafts a running back in the first 3 rounds with an established guy already there, they don't do anything. There's history here. There's even history with the Rams and McVay. They drafted Darrell Henderson when they had prime Todd Gurley, and Darrell Henderson did nothing his rookie year. They drafted Darrell Henderson in the 3rd round, very early in the 3rd round. So it's more of I think he was kind of just a best player available. And if Kyron does get hurt, we need someone that can step in, because they did struggle in those 4 games that Kyron was out. So I think that's what Blake Corum is. Now, is there concerns with Kyron and his size? There is, but I'm kind of all in. I think you're getting an incredible value here with Kyron. Like if I can start my draft and I can get AJ Brown and Kyron Williams or something like that, Jahmyr Gibbs and Kyron Williams, like I'm super happy. So are you worried about Corum and Kyron, or do you think Kyron's going to be the guy?
Well, I think Kyrie, Kyron, I should say. I don't want to mess his name up. He was hurt his rookie year. He was kind of dinged up last year and stuff like that. So, I mean, I don't think I'm going all in on the second round with him. So
interesting.
I would think I would tend to look elsewhere. So
it's interesting because he was so damn good last year.
He was. I had him. I was lucky enough to get him in a waiver wire and he carried my team, and it was like, wow, this guy's pretty damn good, but
Yeah, but that's I know people are worried about like one Blake Corum, but again, that just it never. I made the mistake, and I was worried about Tank Bigsby for ETN, and that did nothing. A lot of people were worried about Zach Charbonnet for Kenneth Walker. Zach Charbonnet did nothing. Like there's history year
yeah,
after year.
those are good. Those are
Um,
really good examples.
yeah, and all the news out of camp is like it's Kyron, and Corum is the clear number 2 guy. And yeah, is Corum going to spell him? Of course. And we probably don't want Kyron playing 90% of the snaps like he was, because that's more likely to get injured. But I just think all the value touches are going to Kyron. Yeah, he could get hurt. That's always a concern because he's a 200-pound running back. So that's an issue there for running backs. But I just think like the Rams running backs are gold. Like they have been in history. They've kind of used one guy when they have one guy. And again, Kyron was so good. Now I know a lot of people are going to bring up Damian Pierce, and it's like, oh, well, look at like Damian Pierce last year. But that was a change of coaching staff, and that's always where it's a little worrisome when the coaching staff changes. But when it's the same coaching staff, like I don't worry about Blake Corum at all. So it's basically if you want to take a running back in the second round, early second round, let's say you grabbed Puka, or let's say you grabbed AJ Brown or Garrett Wilson in round 1, and so you want a running back now. So it's basically either Kyron, Travis Etienne, or Derrick Henry. How do you order those 3 guys?
ETN,
Etienne, Henry, Kyron, or Kyron, Henry?
ETN, Derrick Henry, and then Kyron.
Okay, so then you're definitely. Would you go as far as Achane over Kyron?
Man, I don't know.
We're talking about tomorrow.
I think he's good. And he's kind of a flash in the pan in my, so he's probably going to do well and stuff like that. I don't know if he's gonna, he's gonna have those big games.
Yeah.
And then you might not hear from him for a couple of weeks or something like that. So
Okay, so then what about? Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
no, Kyron, he was consistent
Yeah.
last year when he was playing.
Yeah, so then you're definitely, so you're ETN and Henry over Kyron. What about guys like Marvin Harrison, Devontae Adams versus Kyron?
Marvin Harrison. No, I don't know. Devontae Adams. Oh boy. Maybe, I know that's kind of wishy-washy. Nah, probably not. I'd probably start looking somewhere else.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm totally fine with Kyron, and I think he's going to be. And again, it's more the offense he's on as well. Like he's going to be awesome. I think. Yeah, 9. Yeah, I just think he's going to be really good. He had a lot of touchdown opportunities as well. Puka Nacua is the first wide receiver off the board here for the Rams. He's a fringe first round pick in half PPR. He's at that 1-2 turn. So a lot of times you will see him in the first round. You'll definitely see him in the first round in PPR. He's the wide receiver 7, right? So you have your main guys: Lamb, Hill, Jefferson, Chase, St. Brown. Then you have AJ Brown, and then it's Puka. It's like Puka, Garrett Wilson, and Marvin Harrison are kind of the next 3, and Devontae Adams, kind of the next 3 that people are taking. He did have a knee injury, not serious knee injury, but a knee injury in training camp. So he's like week to week. He might be missing a lot of time. I'll let you start here with Puka. If you're at that 1-2 turn and you grab Jahmyr Gibbs and Puka, are you happy, or do you want to maybe look at Garrett Wilson or Devontae Adams?
Yeah, I don't think let's just say I wouldn't be disappointed. Gibbs definitely I'd be happy about. Puka, I don't know. Is something gonna, is the house of cards gonna fall apart in his second year? Or, here we are talking about a knee injury. I thought last year, watching him play, we got to watch him play quite a bit on the West Coast, and he was getting the guy was getting beat up in the after catching passes and stuff like that. So I'm not saying it's going to continue like that, but I'm a little nervous at Puka in the second round. And I know you had those.
Um,
I would tend to. I might go with Devontae Adams, but then you got the worries about quarterback there. So I don't
mhm,
know, man. Overanalyze, or maybe it would be a Marvin Harrison time, I guess. But I'm not
mhm,
I'm not really high on him yet.
mhm. Yeah, I mean,
You
there's
know,
other guys that are potentially there. Jonathan Taylor, Saquon, those guys are potentially there. But it
which
is
I
interesting.
like those. I like both those guys really good.
Yeah, over Puka. Yeah, and half PPR, you can't deny that. One of the reasons why he was a fifth round pick last year is because of the injuries. He couldn't stay healthy in college. And it is interesting. We have two cases here with Jahmyr Gibbs and Puka where um, both those guys are like first round picks in a lot of drafts, and they might not even, in Gibbs's case, might not even lead the team in carries, which I don't know if has ever happened. A running back that's a first round pick that doesn't even lead his team in carries in fantasy, and then Puka, who is a first round pick of receiver potentially, who might not even be the number one receiver for this team, which we'll get into in just a second, because I think it's you know um, I think it's drastically overblown, a little bit overblown about Cooper Kupp and his demise. I'm fine with Puka. I think both of them could be really, really good. Um, we're talking about a guy in Stafford that can throw 4,500, 4,800, 5,000 yards if it comes to that, and 40 touchdowns. And, that's not all going to go to one guy. So, like, I get it. It is a little bit worrisome, especially if he does go into the season with that injury kind of lingering a little bit. So, um, Cooper Kupp is still here. I know he's 31 years old, just turned 31. I think he is being drastically undervalued here. He's all the way down in
I do
round four.
too.
Round four, wide receiver 21. You see the numbers there. His monster 2021 season, 2022, before he got hurt, he was on pace for another monster season. And then last year, 11.2 points per game. But you got to really parse it out a little bit. When he missed the first 4 games, he came back and was really good the first 4 weeks that he was playing. His first 4 weeks, which was weeks 5 to 8. This is what Cooper Kupp was doing. I'm just going to double check here. Cooper Kupp was the wide receiver 14 in total points. Then he got hurt in week 9, and he was on the injury report for the next 2 weeks. No, sorry, he got hurt in week 11, and he was on the injury report the next 2 weeks. Those 3 weeks where he left the game very early and then was on the injury report the next 2 weeks were terrible. He put up 68 yards in 3 games and 10 catches, like bad numbers. And then he was off the injury report, and he was awesome again from weeks 14 through 17. You look at the numbers from weeks 14 through 17, and Cooper Kupp was like a top 12 receiver once again. Like, he was awesome again. Specifically, he was wide receiver 6 with Puka Nacua as wide receiver 5. That's that stretch the Rams went on. So if you take all those numbers and you kind of like parse it out and you put it all together, like, Cooper Kupp was on pace for another top 12, top 15 season. He just got injured a lot. Yeah, he just got injured a lot. So I think he's being severely underrated. I'm kind of bummed that Puka is dealing with this injury, not only just for Puka, but it's also going to push Cooper Kupp up a bit. And all the reports in the camp is like this offense is still runs through Cooper Kupp. So if I could get him in the 4th round, like, I'm ecstatic. I think he could be a top 12, top 15 guy pretty easily. And I think we're going a little bit too far in his demise and the rise of Puka, because when these guys were healthy together on the field, it was both of them being very, very good. So you said you're right there, Dad.
Yeah, I'd hang my hat on Cooper Kupp in the 4th round in a heartbeat. So, and I do think like you said, offense going through Cup and stuff like that. He's got more gas in the tank. Hopefully, he can shake some of those nagging injuries and stuff like that. Give a good season, but I think he would be. I think he'd be right up there in the wide receiver rankings and stuff like that. So
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's he's severely underrated. 81 targets he had in those if you remove that injury game and then the game where he was hurt. So basically in 8 games, he was getting 10 targets a game is what it came out to, which is that's 170 targets over an entire season. So yeah, he's still going to be good. Now there are injury concerns because he has been injured the last 2 years. So unfortunately, but so did CMC get hurt. He was hurt for 2 straight years, and everyone faded him. And then he's been winning leagues for the last 2 years. So yeah, I'm excited about Cooper Kupp. I really hope his ADP doesn't rise. I really hope, because if I can get him in the middle of the 4th round, like, wow, that's as my wide receiver 3 or even 2. Yeah, that's amazing. I have no other graphics for anyone else. Demarcus Robinson is the next guy off the board. He's not actually being drafted. If you play in, most people play in 16 or 17 round drafts. He's being drafted around 20. He was good last year down the stretch. And he kind of overtook Tutu Atwell, kind of weirdly, because Tutu Atwell was him and Puka when Cooper Kupp was out. Tutu Atwell and Puka Nacua were like awesome. Tutu Atwell was like a top 20 receiver in the first 4 weeks. And then Demarcus Robinson took over and he was just catching touchdowns every game. Don't think it's much here. Like he's a guy who's been around for a while. He's been in the league since 2016, never had more than 500 yards in a season. And he played with Patrick Mahomes and Lamar Jackson. It's not like he had quarterback issues. Is he going to be out there as the wide receiver 3? Sure. But he's more of a waiver wire guy. Jordan Whittington is a rookie that I'm really, really high on for Dynasty, so just keep an eye on him. And then the tight ends. There's no tight end being drafted for the Rams because Colby Parkinson's the first one, but he's going all the way around 23. He's the guy they brought in from the Seahawks. Tyler Higbee tore his knee up in the playoff game, so I don't expect him to be ready to start the year.
You might not see him at all. I don't know.
I don't know. So that being the case, like Colby Parkinson, if he is the guy, he could be a guy we're talking about. Hey, pick him up and stream him this week. But problem is we don't know for sure if he's the guy. I know he's kind of the next guy up on the depth chart, but Davis Allen, who was there last year, kind of took over for Higbee, was looking good. So but I think that's it for the Rams. They're a lot to talk about with the first 4 guys and not much after that. I didn't even bring up Blake Corum, and that's my bad. I need to go back to Blake Corum real quick because he's being drafted around 10 as RB40. Round 10 is still like, if you play in most leagues, I think it's like first or second guy on your bench. Are you okay with that? Blake Corum round 10?
Yeah, I'm not sure because, as long as Kyrie is playing, I'm not sure Blake Corum is going to be fantasy relevant. Blake was a volume guy. I mean, his last 2 years at Michigan, he was getting the ball all the time, steady diet, So if he's not that guy, I'm not sure if that's going to work out. A little different situation,
Yeah.
Maybe we'll see something different, but I know how he was in college and everything else, and I hope he does well though.
Yeah, it's tough because like if something happens to Kyron, Blake Corum could win you leagues. But the fact is, especially the first 4 or 5 weeks, you could be getting just nothing from Corum, and then injuries start hitting your team, bye weeks start happening, and you're like, how do I hold on to this guy? I want to, but how do I do it when I need to pick up someone because another guy got injured or this guy's on bye? So like those are always tough situations. He's going in that handcuff type of. I don't know. He's in an interesting range. He's next to guys like Ezekiel Elliott, who could unfortunately lead the Cowboys in carries. Gus Edwards, same thing for the Chargers. Chase Brown, kind of the same thing for the Bengals. Jerome Ford, same thing for the Browns, especially if Chubb's not healthy. So like those guys, it's like, okay, I know these guys are going to give me production versus Blake Corum, who could be nothing all year, but also could be a league winner if someone goes down, if Kyron goes down. So it's tough. Round 10 is a little bit early, and it's going to be hard to hang on to him when he's, not doing anything. So, and then you drop him, and then Kyron gets hurt, and that's how things go, right?
Yes.
So if he was like a round later, like if we're talking about him versus guys like Charbonnet, Chuba Hubbard, Jalen Wright, Marshawn Lloyd, like these guys, I'm all in. But he's not, unfortunately. He's going right around guys that are, going to be producing. So don't hate it, but also it does feel like a tad early. But that's it for the Rams. We will be back with the Miami Dolphins, another team to talk a lot about. So we will see you all in that video.